MTG Scoundrels. It's in the cardboard.
Ladies and gentlemen, scoundrels of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Modern Mondays. Today on the docket we have Green-White Broodscale versus Esper Goryos. Already getting started, looks like, with an underground sewers. Apologies, undercity sewers. And here is an Urza's Saga to get things started for the Broodscale player. Going green-white for the Leo combo, and here is Vexing Bauble. So you'll be seeing more Soul Cauldrons and the like, just to have a second combo to be threatened. Here's a Flooded Strand for the Esper Goryos player. Passing from there. The Bauble's good at protecting the combo, at least for a little while, but if you don't have what you need, it's going to be a little tough. Here's a Springleaf Drum into an Ancient Stirrings. Looking at 5. Putting 1 into hand, specifically a colorless card. Looks like choosing Walking Ballista here. Interesting choice. May already have a Soul Cauldron in hand, or may have the Leo in hand. Or just may be looking to have a threat that's difficult to Solitude, because it will end up in the graveyard. Flooded Strand getting cracked here. More than likely finding another Surveil land. Because with the defenses down... Oh, no, just finding a basic here. Maybe the Surveil land is in hand. Specifically the Meticulous Archive. Looking at Faithful Mending here on the end step. Gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. Though sometimes surveilling Atraxa is a pretty nice option. Two lands going to the bin. Untapping. Swamp Go. Key turn if you're the Broodscale player. And this will kind of dictate where we think they are. So if they have a third land in hand and a Broodscale, you definitely go get the Blade here. But instead getting the Soul Guide Lantern, exiling the Faithless Looting. So that tells you which combo's in hand. And looks like the Esper Goryos player is going to go ahead and flash back that Faithful Mending. Bringing us to 20 to 23. Though having the Soul Guide Lantern on the battlefield, not bad either for the Broodscale player. Forces the Goryos player to have 2 copies of Goryos Vengeance. This also makes it to where the Goryos player really has to... Oh, discarding 2 cards there, including a Faithful Mending. But here's a Malevolent Rumble. Making a dude, specifically an Eldrazi Spawn. Alright, 4 cards getting milled. Gets to choose a permanent among those 4. Taking the Brushland. And here is Agatha's Soul Cauldron, passing the turn. Key play here. Will the Soul Cauldron survive the turn? Goryos does play Prismatic Ending. Here's a Marsh Flats. 2 mana. And here's a Prismatic Ending for the Soul Cauldron. That'll get exiled. So untapping, drawing. One of the combos currently not available. Here's another Brushland. Which by the board state also unlocks Kozilek's command. It's looking like they're just going to pass the turn here. Marshflat's going to get cracked on the end step. There may be a world... I can't tell if there's an Emrakul in hand there. And there's at least a couple of Walking Ballista. No, it looks like there's a Leo in hand. Yeah, and Goryos going to find a tapped Hollowed Fountain here, so... may have discarded their Meticulous Archive, or it's still in hand. So untapping, 4 open mana, and this is where Vexing Bauble gets worse. While it can stop a pitched spell, or an evoked spell in this case in some form, it cannot stop Solitude being hard cast. Speaking of which, 5 mana available for the Goryos player. So this makes the Broodscale's lines a little bit worse. And here's a Kozilek's command. Deciding only to do it for 3 here. Or maybe for 2, excuse me. Looking at a Blade of the Blood Chief and a land. That's an interesting spot. Blade going top, land going to the bottom. Blade being drawn off the K command. And currently 3 Eldrazi spawns, so plenty of mana to fight through some stuff. But you really need to have a game plan in 4... Ooh, there's an Eldrazi Temple. Probably just drawn. Looks like taking 1 here for a Leonardo Cutting Edge. Which is cheeky. But you saw the Soul Cauldron get exiled. Here's a Blade of the Blood Chief. You're seeing part of the problem, attaching the Blade to the Leo. Part of the problem with having the Leo combo in this deck is sometimes you have pieces of one combo and not the other. Granted, Soul Cauldron, Broodscale, those cards do go together and have been played together in the past with Walking Ballista to be able to give the Broodscale the Walking Ballista ability. Here's a Solitude that's going to exile the Leo in response to the equip. So gaining 1 life. We're back to 20 to 21. Still at least 4 mana available for the Broodscale player. Looks like there's a second Leonardo in hand. With 2 Walking Ballistas in the graveyard, there's a third one in hand as well. And here is another Leonardo. Passing the turn. Tapping one of the Eldrazi spawns and then sacking it for the mana. the drum giving the colored mana there. But now the Goryos player has a lot of options. If they're already playing Ephemerate, they can really just control the board. Or if they have an Ephemerate in hand, excuse me. Of course they are, in fact, playing Ephemerate. And if you want, you can go shields down, just play Quantum Riddler if you have one in hand. But it's going to start like this. Solitude attacking in for 3. Broodscale player not going to block. Bring us to 17 to 24. Life for yourself isn't as much of a issue if you're the Broodscale player because you can win out of nowhere, but you do have to be aware of where you're sitting. All right, here's the Ephemerate. That's going to target the Solitude. And go ahead and exile the Leonardo. Passing from there. Here's an Urza Saga. Tapping 2 for a Walking Ballista. Oh, excuse me. Tapping 4 to make a 2/2 Walking Ballista. Tapping a Springleaf Drum. And a Spawn to attach a Blade of the Blood Chief. Sacking that Eldrazi spawn, putting a counter on the Walking Ballista. And going to be targeting that Solitude twice. So no second Ephemerate in hand. Granted, there could be, and they just wanted to let the Solitude die. That is a possibility here. Though sometimes forcing the Broodscale player to use a bunch of resources to try to kill that Solitude is the better play. But we have another Faithful Mending. Discarding an Atraxa and what looks like to be a Force of Negation. Untapping. Ephemerate's going away. Drawing for turn. So now you have the lands to possibly do double Goryos and Ephemerate. Here's Goryos. Soul Guide Lantern activated. And here's the second Goryos Vengeance targeting the Atraxa. The Atraxa is going to come in. Looking at 10. Yep, 2 Goryos will be in the graveyard here, as they were both on the stack. There's a Solitude, there's a Thoughtseize, a couple lands, an Ephemerate, 2 Riddlers, maybe another Ephemerate, and a Prismatic Ending. Taking a sorcery, taking an instant. Taking a land. Deciding between Riddler and Solitude. I think you kind of have to take the Solitude. Taking the Solitude. So this makes it a lot harder if you're the Broodscale player. kind of have to keep that Vexing Bauble around just to somewhat protect your combo. There's another Flooded Strand. That's going to get cracked. I'll find a Watery Grave, taking 2. Off the grave and 1 of the fetch, so we're at 18 to 23. Atraxa attacking in. That'll bring us to 11 to 30. No flying blockers for the Broodscale player here. And on end step, here we have probably the Ephemerate. Taking a long time to do it. But not a ton of options here. You have one Urza's Saga. It's not going to be able to find a Broodscale, obviously. There's the Ephemerate. That's going to target the Atraxa, find more options here. 2 more white cards, which is kind of a big deal, and a backup Goryos Vengeance. So the 2 white cards means no matter what, if you try to draw the extra card with the Vexing Bauble, the Solitude is going to be active. And doubtful there's a consign in hand. That's usually a sideboard piece. But discarding a hand size, putting another Atraxa into the graveyard. So here it is. Untapping, drawing. Is it a Broodscale? Broodscale would win the game. And if it was a Broodscale, that would just be ran out onto the battlefield. But looks like, nope, scooping it up. Game number 1 going to Esper Goryos. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you all so much for watching our big Modern primer called What Should You Be Playing in Modern in 2026. Has been an incredible turnout for that video in terms of views, comments, subscribers, likes, all the things you could ever want. So thank you for tuning into that. Check out our last video, which was a energy mirror of sorts, but 2 different tastes. Just trying to innovate on the deck, so definitely check that out. Moving on to sideboards, you will definitely see Leo Broodscale bring in possibly a Thraben Charm and more Vexing Baubles for sure. Vexing Bauble early really stops the Esper Goryos deck in its tracks for the most part. And granted, you need to have answers. Well, less answers and more just threats. Things that Goryos has to deal with. And if you have Vexing Bauble out, they have a hard time dealing with what you do. So you definitely want to go that route. Now, if you're the Esper Goryos player, you are bringing in your consigned memories if they aren't already in the main deck these days. But I guarantee those 4 sitting there are in fact those cards. One thing the Broodscale player will also probably bring in here is Pithing Needle. Sometimes just naming Psychic Frog is a good play. And if you can get it off the activation of the Urza's Saga, it means that ultimately they can't respond to it. At least once you start searching. So that is a big deal as well. And of course, if they're running a Grafdigger's Cage, bring that in here too. Anyway, moving on to our ads. Definitely check out our friends over at Grove Warden Games, a wonderful place to store mount and hosts of our channel. Link to their store is in the description below, and we are working on something special for when we hit 1,000 subscribers, so definitely check that out and subscribe to the channel. They're in the process of also getting their singles for Magic the Gathering all set up in terms of online ordering, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Also check out our friend Sean Gerard, makes wonderful art for the channel. Their Instagram is up on the screen and their email is in the description below. They are open to new projects, specifically anything you're looking to do, personal, professional. They're the ones to go to, so definitely check them out. And last but not least, check out our socials. We are at MTGScoundrels over on Blue Sky, Twitter, and Facebook. Most active over on Blue Sky. But also be in the comments below. Let us know what decks you are playing this RCQ season. Esper Goryos is definitely a fan favorite and worth your time. But we do recognize that Boros Energy is over 20% of the meta, and Jeskai Blink has made a somewhat surprising surge to where it's at in the meta currently. But here we are, we're about ready to get started in game number 2. So game number 2 here, I wouldn't be surprised kind of how this goes if Broodscale decides to, both players looking at their first 7s here. Yeah, looks like starting us off with a Temple Garden, going to 18. Both keeping their 7s. And here's an Ancient Stirrings. An Emrakul, a Ballista, an Urza Saga. A few options here. Really taking the time here on this choice. Must be a difficult hand. Though in some ways, taking the Emrakul might not be wrong here. That's a win condition all on its own. It looks like that's what the Broodscale player is deciding to do here. And pass him from there. Polluted Delta and pass. Eldrazi Temple into Glaring Fleshraker. Cracking the Delta in response. Finding a Watery Grave, bringing us to 18 to 17. And that's going to get consigned. So one consign out of the hand of the Goryos player, which is pretty good for Broodscale. Already 2 types in the yard. Flooded Strand pass. Ooh, top decked another Fleshraker. Gonna go ahead and run it out here. Ooh, second consign to memory. Well, you're kind of happy to see that if you're the Broodscale player in a lot of ways. And here's the Meticulous Archive off the fetch, bringing us to 1816. Surveil incoming. Putting it in the bin. Looks like a Marsh Flats. Shadowy Backstreet surveilling again. Oh, putting a Godless Shrine in the bin. Just wanting action on top. Ooh, passing the turn with 2 open mana. It's possibly holding up a K command. But I think I saw a Thraben Charm as well. Alright, here's a Psychic Frog. The best discard outlet Goryos could ever want. And here's a Kozilek's command on the end step. Gonna make a dude. I guess scry 1, draw 1. Putting it to the bottom. Drawing a card. Untapping, drawing for turn. That's a Soul Cauldron. There's a Springleaf Drum. More colored mana available. And looking to pass from there. In the end step, throwing an Atraxa in the bin, and there's a Goryos Vengeance. And in response, Thraben Charm to exile the graveyard. Passing the turn. Psychic Frog gets a counter. Off the discard. Psychic Frog getting in for 2. Bring us to 16 all. Passing with 4 open mana. That looks like a blade drawn by the Broodscale player here. So you have a Soul Cauldron. It looks like that's going to get played out. In response. Oh, that's going to get hit with a hard cast Force of Negation. Oh, Veil of Summer. All right. Spells can't be countered. Not a bad piece of tech here. Got to draw a card off it too. So Soul Cauldron hitting the battlefield. Psychic Frog attacking him for 2 once again, it looks like. Yep, deciding that. Bringing us to 14-16, drawing another card. Lots of cards being drawn by Goryos. Granted, that's kind of what they want. Marsh Flats. Passing the turn. I think I see a Rumble in hand. Definitely an Ancient Stirrings. Alright, here's Malevolent Rumble. Making a dude milling 4. There's a Broodscale. You already have Blade in hand. But grabbing another land here, not a bad option either. In fact, you might just take the Temple. Just try to force through that Emrakul. Yeah, choosing the Basking Broodscale. All right. Deciding to go ahead, just set up for another turn. Ancient Stirrings. Finding a Kozilek's Command. Passing from there. Marsh Flat's going to get cracked on the end step. Possibly finding, oh, just getting the Undercity Sewers here. Third Surveil land already. Possibly keeping the Surveil on top. Yep, deciding to draw it. Gonna give the Frog Flying here. By exiling 3 cards from the graveyard. Attacking him for 2. Drawing a card. Currently 12 to 15. Passing from there, has 5 open mana. Draws an Urza's Saga. That is a land. I see 7 mana available here. Is there enough types in the graveyard? Well, here's a Blade of the Blood Chief. You have enough to combo off if you need to here. Three mana? Deciding against it, it looks like. Passing the turn. That drum should be untapped. There you are. 5 open mana. Psychic Frog online. Holding up K command would be the simple read here. But you also have a Soul Cauldron out there. Patience is the game. Psychic Frog getting in for 2. That'll be 10 to 15. Drawing another card. There's a Hollowed Fountain taking 2. Brings to 10 to 13. On the end step, Kozilek's Command. Targeting the Psychic Frog. Holding up mana of some sort in case of a counter. Like a sneaky No More Lies, I guess. Atraxa's going to get thrown in the bin. And Goryos is going to target the Atraxa. Soul Cauldron gets activated. Goryos in response Atraxa is coming out onto the battlefield. Another double Goryos play. I see Prismatic Ending, Consign, Faithful Mending, Force of Negation to Fairy, March of Otherworldly Light, Ephemerate, and Psychic Frog here. Off this Atraxa. Looks like not choosing March. Choosing Teferi because it's a planeswalker. Picking up a land. Picking up a creature. Picking up a sorcery. So now it's a matter of what instant would they like. Interesting choice here. Ooh, taking the Ephemerate. Gotta keep that Atraxa on the battlefield, I guess, if there's none in hand. Psychic Frog getting exiled by the K command. 2 Eldrazi spawn being created. Untapping. Drawing for turn. Oh, Goryos thinks they actually have too many cards in hand, so they're going to discard one. Oh, 2. Well, if there was a time as ever, or if ever, this is probably it. 4 types. 5 types. So 5 types in the bin currently. So casting a Walking Ballista for 0. They'll go to the graveyard. That'll make 6 types. And there is Emrakul the Promised End. That is the one card that's probably pretty decent into Atraxa. Though Atraxa does have Death Touch. Oh, Solitude going to take out the Emrakul here. So Broodscale is going to gain 13 life. That Emrakul is going to end up in exile. Ephemerating the Atraxa to keep it on the battlefield. Ooh, Solitude, Quantum Riddlers, and lands on this one. Also an Atraxa. Deciding to take a Riddler here? The rest will go to the bottom. And the Broodscale player is going to take the turn of the Goryos player. Ooh, double Psychic Frog. A Sink into Stupor, Riddler, Prismatic Ending. So I'm going to cast the Ephemerate here on the Atraxa to look at more cards. Because why not get rid of more of the library here if you can? Ooh, there's a Teferi. And a Consign to Memory. Okay. So taking the instant, which is Consign. Probably not taking the Goryos here. Or the Faithful Mending. But you get to take a creature, you get to take the Teferi for sure. The Ephemerate's now in the graveyard. So looking at this, you can play Sink into Stupor as a land. Force the Goryos player to take 3 damage. Play a Psychic Frog. Play a Teferi. And yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. You'll end up having more than enough mana to also cast that Prismatic Ending on the frog when you're done. So you're going to do a ton of damage here in terms of the stuff you can do. Just a matter of deciding what was worth taking, what was not worth taking. So no sorceries. Oh, there's one sorcery. There's a Prismatic Ending. All those going to the bottom of the library. Atraxa is already on the battlefield. So now for the fun stuff. Sink into Stupor. It's going to get played as a land, take 3 damage. That'll be 23 to 10. Two mana. Casting a Psychic Frog. 3 mana. Casting a Teferi Time Raveler. Bouncing the Atraxa back to hand. Keeping a Prismatic Ending. Dumping the rest into the graveyard. Before casting the Prismatic Ending, exiling as many cards as possible. Just leaving 1 land in the bin. And then casting the Prismatic Ending to exile the Psychic Frog. Using all the mana. There should have been a card drawn by the Teferi there, which I think was missed. But at this point, just plus in the Teferi. Well, how do you follow up an Emrakul turn? Well, you resolve your Urza Saga. Finding a Blade of the Blood Chief. Because finding Bauble here wouldn't really matter. There's another temple. I guess you just cast an Emrakul the Promised End. And that'll do it. Game 2, going to Broodscale combo. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. And we are moving on to game number 3. Alright, looks like both players looking at 7s quickly. This has been a very long match, so I would not be surprised if this goes to turns. Polluted Delta, passing from there. Starting off with an Urza's Saga and passing. Polluted Delta on the end step getting cracked. Looks like finding the Undercity Sewers. Almost too many S's, or S sounds in that. Ooh, putting an Atraxa in the bin immediately. Danger zone. Hollowed Fountain pass. That'll bring us to 20-17. Urza Saga goes to 2. Eldrazi Temple as land for turn. Here's a Goryos Vengeance, targeting the Atraxa. But in response, we have a Kozilek's Command. That'll exile the Atraxa. And making a dude passing the turn. Marsh Flats being played. 2 mana. Psychic Frog. Passing back. Saga Trigger. Interesting situation. If there's a green mana in hand, might not be quite enough if you find Blade here. Oh, deciding to find Vexing Bauble. Might just not have the Broodscale in hand. Oh, the Drum is in hand. There's a Temple Garden. Taking 2, going to 18. Here's an Ancient Stirrings. Either that or just didn't have a payoff. That could also be the case. Finding a Kozilek's Command. That is a payoff. Didn't show it there, though. Guess both players playing loose and fast. Here's a Springleaf Drum. And passing from there. Marsh Flats being cracked. Probably finding... Yep, here's a Shadowy Backstreet. Surveilling, putting a land into the bin. Untap, draw. There's a 4th land. Exiling 3 cards, attacking him with the Psychic Frog. That's going to deal 1, bring us to 17-16. Also drawing a card. Don't know if the card was actually... Okay. Damage goes through. Card drawn was deciding if they wanted to discard or not. Alright, active player turn 1. Do you have the cards to go for the combo now? Here's a Boseiju. Two mana, floating one Eldrazi. Here's a Basking Broodscale. Tapping the Spawn. Oh, casting the Rumble, so it doesn't have the Blade in hand. Oh, there's the Blade. That's not enough mana. Puts the Blade in hand. Not enough mana. Has a K return. Oh, just going to run out the Blade here? Undefended. Okay. Oh, looks like on the end step has a March of Otherworldly Light. That's going to exile the Blade. Oh, that's unfortunate. Cracking the fetch. Finding a Watery Grave. Casting a Faithful Mending. Gaining 2 life. Discarding 2. Untapping. This will be active player turn 2. Oh, there is the 5th land. So Vexing Bauble not looking like it's in a good spot here. This may be a world where you just crack the Bauble. Here's a Quantum Riddler. In response, discarding a Riddler so that way they can draw 2. Exiling 3, giving the Frog flying. Discarding 1. Ephemerating the Quantum Riddler. Drawing 2 more cards. Teferi getting discarded to the Frog. Tacking in for 4 here. Bring us to 13 to 15. Passing the turn. Active player turn 3. Oh, that's another Broodscale. 2 mana available for Goryos. Brush land for turn. Do you wait till the last possible second? I mean, you kind of have to go for it. They're just going to keep drawing cards. Here we are, Kozilek's command X equals 2. Oh no. Has the consign to memory. That'll counter the K command. Showing the 2 cards and scooping them up. Oh, there was another K command on top, but that was going to be tough. Game, set, match. Going to Esper Goryo's here. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. And we will see you all next week.